Hello everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the 3R method for evaluating sources. If you have already done the reading for this week, you should be familiar with this method, but if not, we're going to go over it a little bit and you can read more about it in the chapter that you're going to be assigned. So let's get right into it. What is the 3R method? The 3R method is a set of 3 questions to help you make critical thinking decisions about sources that you are finding in your research. These questions include, is it relevant, is it reliable, and is it recent? And obviously it's very alliterative, so you have 3 R's, and this is hopefully going to help you ask questions to figure out whether you should be using this source. The first one, is it relevant? This is very important because just because a title indicates this article might have something to do with your topic does not necessarily mean that the majority of the content directly references your topic. You want to make sure that this article is primarily about whatever it is you're talking about, because otherwise the information is not going to necessarily be what you're looking for. If it briefly mentions your topic in the introduction and then moves on to talk about something completely different, there's no guarantee that the information that was mentioned in the introduction has not been summarized or paraphrased. It's not necessarily the best source that you need. So you want to make sure that your topic can apply to the full context of the paper. Some of the things you can do is looking past the abstract, looking at the results or the conclusion can really help you figure out what the main thrust of an article is. And for a web page, you should really be reading at least the first few paragraphs before you're making a decision about whether that web page is going to be relevant to your topic. You can also look at the works cited or the reference list, and the titles of those sources should all have something to do with what you're talking about. Those are some ways to make sure that your source is relevant. Next, is it reliable? Who is the author? Is it objective? What are the credentials or for the author or the publishing company? Is there an agenda? Making sure that you know who is writing it, why you should be listening to them, and what the goal is for this article. Those are very important. So is it credible, and what kind of a bias do you have? When you're talking about bias, you really should be looking for factual information without kind of colorful language. So lots of adjectives or opinion statements. Oh, this is the best, or it was this grand, beautiful, exciting, those kind of words let you know it's not as objective. And is it trying to sell you something? Is it by a company, about a company? Those kinds of things are things you should be looking at as you're judging the reliability of a source. And last, is it recent? Remember, recentness can be subjective. Are you talking about online education at universities? That has all changed after 2019 because of COVID, because moving classes online has happened to a far greater extent, and the ways that we teach online classes have changed because of COVID. What about computer science or computer animation? Every time Disney or Pixar releases a new movie, they have some new technology about making hair or water more realistic looking. So you're going to need sources that are much more recent in order to be relevant or recent enough to be usable for your research. But what about if you're talking about historical fashion? 10 to 15 years, you're not going to find really vast differences in what the research is going to look like, so that should be recent enough to be usable. Keep in mind this cycle of information and what type of source you're using. So because scholarly journals and books take so much time to be published, they become irrelevant after a much longer period. If you're talking about a newspaper, in order to be relevant, it really should happen within the past year. But if you're talking about a book in the past 10 to 15 years, that book is still going to be useful. You are going to be doing an assignment for homework this week. You are going to be looking at 3 different articles and evaluating them based on the 3R method. So you should have this research question: does DNA profiling of potential criminals based on criminals who are charged by the courts constitute racial profiling? That is the research question we are looking at. And there's going to be 3 articles that talk about this topic. For your answer, you should have a short paragraph that says, is this article relevant? Is it really talking about what this question is asking? Is it reliable? Who is writing this? Who is publishing it? What are they trying to get you to do? And is it recent? When was it written? How long is too long for a source to be relevant? And this should not take you a long time, because I'm not asking you to read and fully comprehend the sources. I want you to look at the date, the author's name, the kind of basic overview, those sources. Just kind of really look at all of these small details and let me know whether you think it would be useful to use in a research paper. And obviously, this is the chapter that you're going to be reading. It's going to go over this topic. And if you have any questions, please let me know on the discussion board or in an email, and I'll see you in class.